warning, if you feel like you're being watched by the trees here in Woodlands National Park, you are. There are dangerous creatures here in these woods that look exactly like trees, but they are very dangerous and they are out to get you.
You guys think it was a skinwalker? Holy crap. It's gone. It's literally gone. What do you want from me? Why you keep following me?
What? What the hell is wrong with you?
There are forests all over the world that people seem to be swallowed by, from Bashu forest in Romania
to the Mancheck swamp in Louisiana, haunted by the elusive rougarou. These are some of the most cursed forests in the world. Enter and you may never come out.
Bashu forest in Romania is known to be one of the most cursed and haunted forests in the world, which really comes as no surprise when you look at it. The forest is full of twisted and mangled trees that appear to rotate clockwise and provide an eerie setting for some pretty creepy happenings. Many people who have entered the forest claim to have lost track of time, unknowingly spending hours walking through the winding trees before eventually making their way out of the forest. However, some people aren't so lucky. There have been many cases of people entering Bashu and never being seen again, despite numerous search efforts. No one knows the reason, but there are theories. Paranormal activity and extraterrestrial involvement. Many locals from the area claim that the tormented souls of 200 Romanian peasants who were gruesomely killed in the forest remain there to that day. You will know you have come face to face with one when you see the piercing green eyes of a hooded figure staring at you from behind a tree branch. And to make matters worse, these deceased peasants often appear in pairs. And then of course there are the many alleged UFO sightings, which started back in the 1960s when biologist Alexander Swift snapped this photo of a strange light hovering above a completely bare part of the forest. Since then, UFO sightings have become more and more common, but ultimately we have yet to discover why, or if they are really to blame for the strange happenings taking place in Bashu.
Mancheck swamp in Louisiana is said to be teeming with all sorts of dangers, both living and dead. Now, the very real danger of alligators isn't enough to deter you. The swamp, which is about an hour from Louisiana, is also full of spooky tales, like the legend of a voodoo priestess named Julie White, for example. Julie lived in the swamp and was known for casting curses on those who crossed her. She once predicted that a huge disaster would happen when she died, and sure enough, on the day of her funeral in 1915, a massive hurricane struck the area. Her ghost is said to roam the forest to this day, bringing bad fortune to whoever crosses her path. But if physical danger is more your style, you can also look forward to spotting the rougarou, a werewolf-like creature that many have reported seeing lurking through the swamp at night.
Elfin Forest in California is a triple threat when it comes to reasons to avoid it at all costs. Why? Well, because it contains an old refurbished insane asylum that was for some reason converted into a resort. It's allegedly been cursed by the Romani people, and it is said to be home to a bunch of angry Native American spirits. While the asylum is now known as Quest Haven Resort, it was once a pretty sketchy place that used shock therapy, lobotomies, starvation, waterboarding, and forcible restraint as forms of treatment for mental illness. A lot of people died there, and according to some, many of them haven't left either. It is also said that the Romani people cursed the lands before being killed by a rival group of Native Americans. When the Native Americans eventually died, their souls were tied to the forest, and they were forced to spend the rest of their days mournfully roaming the area. Legend has it that if you die in Elfin Forest, you will meet the same fate as the natives, as well as the patients of the asylum, and be forced to spend the rest of your days trying to make friends with some pre-21st century ghosts.
Number 10. Abandoned car. A desert park ranger on Reddit shared a few of their stories that they had experienced while working. One that stands out is their discovery of a burned and abandoned car. When they received the report, they weren't too shocked, as it wasn't a rare occurrence that cars would be stolen and abandoned, occasionally being burned. When they found the vehicle, and as they waited for the fire department to arrive, they were left standing in shock, as it was clear that there was a body left in the front seat of the car. They discovered rope and other strange items in the car, and it was determined that the body had been tied up and killed. The police arrived, but no answers ever came about what had happened there, and they now refer to the area as the haunted site. Number 9. Abandoned sites. It's not uncommon to find abandoned campsites in the woods, but these rangers share their stories of the unique, strange, and scary things they found that made them stand out. The first was an abandoned house with a small shed hidden behind it. The shed had a large steel door which had been broken off its hinges when they found it. The windows had been boarded over and covered up, but venturing inside, they found only a queen-sized bed covered with burned sheets. The next was an abandoned tent found very close to the walking trail. Inside was a large stash of food like beans and rice, a sleeping bag, and a lonely teddy bear. Sometimes the stories with the least information and answers are scariest, as they allow our minds to wander and imagine various frightening scenarios. Number 8. Search returns strange evidence. A ranger and their coworker were called to head out and search for a group of teen hikers that had become separated from their group. They spent most of their day heading in the direction of where the teenagers had last been seen. Eventually, deep into the woods and their journey, they came across a startling discovery. They found branches which had been carved into spears placed into the ground, unidentifiable carvings in trees, children's stuffed toys hanging from ropes tied to the trees. One thing they noticed was that the symbols in the trees appeared to be freshly carved. As would be expected, the two were spooked, but settled down nearby as night was coming and they had to sleep. In the morning, they discovered shoe prints and a piece of fabric that had become caught on a tree. Someone had been there in the night. The teens were later discovered and the two workers returned back to base, never knowing who had been in the woods with them that night. Number 7. Strange creature. A camp counselor in New York made a scary discovery when he was sneaking out late at night to meet up with his girlfriend. It was about 1 a.m. when he heard rustling in the woods next to him, expecting to be faced with something like a bear, deer, or other wild animal. Unexpectedly, a creature burst forth from the bushes towards him. In the darkness, he described the creature's appearance as being 3 feet tall, standing on 2 legs, and having 2 arms, looking like a miniature person. While it can be easy to misidentify animals in the dark of night, I personally can't think of any normal forest creature that would match anything close to this description. He then moved towards it and it apparently got scared, running away in a strange manner that the camp counselor described as being similar to doing the robot dance. To this day, he has no idea what the creature might have been. Number 6. Light on the cliff. An unfortunate part of being a park ranger is having to go on search and rescue missions for missing people, and never knowing what state you might find them in, if at all. One park ranger recounts a story of him and his coworker on one of these calls, searching for a man in his 20s who had gone missing. As they spent the day searching with no luck, they decided to set up a camp and rest for the night. At about 2 a.m., he got up to go to the bathroom when he spotted a bright light moving on a cliff a few miles away, saying it looked to be like a flashlight beam. In the morning, they went to search that area and unfortunately found the missing man's body at the base of the cliff. What caught the ranger's attention was a flashlight, similar to the one he thought he had seen on the cliff. So it seems to make sense. The man had been walking with his flashlight and had unfortunately fallen. But it doesn't end there. When the coroner arrived to inspect the body, it was determined the man had clearly been dead for over 48 hours. So how could it have been him shining his flashlight on the cliff the night before? Apparently, another search and rescue team member had been near the area and hadn't seen any other people. To this day, there seems to be no explanation for what that light was.
Starting off this list today, we have Pendle Hill, which was the location of some witch trials. Legend says that the spirits of the accused witches still roam these woods, an unseen presence that chills the spine of those who dare to tread their paths. As the veil thins on Halloween night, paranormal enthusiasts and brave souls flock to this eerie locale, eager to encounter these ghostly entities. Amidst the whispering trees and under the hill's watchful gaze, visitors recount eerie experiences. Ghostly whispers that float on the breeze, fleeting shadows that flit through the trees, I didn't even mean to rhyme there, and an unnerving chill that descends without warning, as if the spirits themselves are brushing by. It's stories like these that make this place such a hot spot for people to visit, all yearning for a glimpse into the other side. But Pendle Hill keeps its secrets close. This is just one of those places where the horrific history attracts curious minds to see what exactly is hiding here. Next up on our list, we have the Smolensk Forest. This forest's dark story is one that starts off during one of the darkest parts of history, in 1943 at the height of the Second World War. At this time, German troops invaded this forest and made the disturbing discovery of a mass grave containing Polish soldiers who had their lives taken. And this was not just a few, not that that would necessarily make it better, but we are talking about thousands of people. 20,000 actually, by some estimates. In the end, it was determined that these people were casualties of an order made by Joseph Stalin. This is certainly enough to make this a creepy place, but of course, the story doesn't end there. In more recent history, there was a plane crash in the forest that happened in 2010, in which 96 people lost their lives. All in all, it's probably just good to stay away from this one, just in case. Doesn't sound like good things are happening there. Next up on our list today, we have the Tsavo East National Park, which is nestled in the vast wilderness of Kenya. This place is a sanctuary of nature's splendor, yet it harbors a chilling legacy that whispers through the savannah. Beyond its renowned biodiversity, the park is etched in infamy for the harrowing episodes at the Tsavo River, where, in 1898, a pair of man-eating lions unleashed a reign of terror upon the laborers constructing the Uganda Railway. I know, you probably weren't expecting man-eating lions, but here we are. These predators, known as the Ghost and the Darkness, became the stuff of legend, not just for their very unnerving predation, but also for the spectral tales that followed. The spirits of those who fell prey to the lions are said to linger, imbuing the landscape with an aura of mystery and foreboding, and travelers and locals recount an inexplicable ambiance around the river, marked by unaccountable whispers in the wind and the faint echoes of distant roars at night. I can't think of anything more terrifying. As darkness falls over Tsavo, the line between the natural and the supernatural blurs, with some asserting that the restless souls of the past still roam the park, perhaps still entwined in the tragic narrative of the man-eating lions. Next up on our list today, we have the Black Forest, which is found in the heart of southwestern Germany. Here, there is the legend of a headless horseman that looms large, a spectral figure said to ride through the forest's darkest corners, with legends whispering of eerie encounters on moonless nights. Similarly, whispers of werewolves and witches pervade the local lore. There's stories entwined with the ancient trees and hidden glens that define this mysterious landscape. Local folklore tells of witches who gather beneath the moonlit sky, their silhouettes casting sinister shadows against the flickering flames of their ritual fires. Meanwhile, tales of werewolves lurking in the underbrush stoke the fires of the imagination, suggesting a transformational bond between the forest and these mythical creatures. These legends, passed down through generations, speak to the deep connection between this forest and the supernatural, a relationship born from the very essence of the Black Forest's primeval beauty and inscrutable depths. Amidst the backdrop of mystery and lore, the forest retains its timeless allure, inviting the brave and the curious to explore its hidden secrets and perhaps even encounter a legend come to life. If it's a moonless night, you're encountering a headless horseman. If it's a full moon, you're getting werewolves. And I guess if there's just any other moon, you're getting witches. What more could you want, truly? Holy shit. Alright.
10. City of Giants. We often talk about aliens being responsible for building great monuments like the pyramids, but did we ever consider it might be giants? In 2012, something was discovered deep in the Amazon that might suggest just that. A group of researchers, paired with a team of local guides, discovered what appears to be the remains of a large city close to the Ecuador side of the forest. At the center of the city was a large stone pyramid, 80 meters tall, with a flat area on top which held many artifacts. Scattered around the area were many things like old pottery and, most curiously, massive stone tools. They appeared to be much too large and heavy for any average-sized human to ever have been able to use. The government of Ecuador ruled that the formations were just naturally occurring, but the researchers heavily dispute this, saying that due to the rectangle-shaped bricks, cement-like bonding material, and perfectly circular holes, it can't possibly have been caused by nature. Instead, they, and others, believe that this was a city built by giants long ago. What you believe is up to you. Number 9. The Mapuche Monster. There are many different tribes scattered throughout the Amazon, some without contact to each other, and some without contact to even the outside world. Yet one thing that they all have in common are their stories of a large 7-foot-tall rainforest beast, similar to many cultures' depictions of Bigfoot. The creature is described to be bulletproof and having long hair. It apparently also has a smell that is so strong it makes hunters dizzy. These stories are so widespread and similar that many researchers have gone out in search of the monster, with no luck so far. Some scientists say that this is likely just a legend passed down for centuries, dating back to when giant land sloths roamed the forests, but local people believe it to be a spirit that will kill those who hunt more than their fair share. Number 8. The Boiling River. Hidden deep in the Amazon forest is a hidden river with unexpected and potentially magical properties. Children are told the legends of the Boiling River, about a giant snake spirit that heats it up. Andre Russo went in search of the river after having been raised on the legends by his grandfather, wanting to know if the stories of a boiling river could possibly be true. He took a long journey to reach the supposed location of the river, having to ask permission from a shaman who guarded the waters in order to gain access and study it. Russo discovered that the average temperature of the river was a whopping 187 degrees Fahrenheit, with steam pouring out from the top. It's speculated that the river boils due to faults deep in the earth, but locals believe that it's a magical river with healing properties and use it in their medicinal practices. When Russo was there, he noticed the scariest part of the river, that it kills just about anything that falls into it, dead frogs and other animals floating around where he stood on the edge. Number 7. The Potu Bird. Throughout the Amazon rainforest lives a bird known as the common Potu Bird. If it's so common, then what makes it so scary? I mean, besides its face. First, let's mention these birds' tendency to always be found in pairs of 2, a male and a female. Because of this, legend goes that there were 2 children, a boy and a girl, living with their father and stepmother. The stepmother was evil and greedy, wanting to gain all of her husband's inheritance, so she convinced the man to abandon his children within the forest to die. He succeeds, leaving them lost in the forest with no hope for them to find their way out. However, the mother spirit of the forest took pity on them and adopted the 2 as her own children, making them into birds. Stories go that the call of the Potu Bird sounds like children calling out in anguish, desperate to escape the forest and return to their family. If you think this legend sounds a lot like Hansel and Gretel, you'd be right. This one just contains a lot less candy and witches. Number 6. Dangerous animals. Well, we've somehow made it this far without mentioning the many scary and terrifying creatures hiding within the depths of the forest. Life in the forest has evolved these creatures to have many unique and frightening abilities in order to survive. Let's start with perhaps one of their most famous, piranhas. Piranhas live in the Amazon River basin and are known for their incredibly strong and razor-sharp bite, even being known to have eaten human flesh. Next, poison dart frogs. While beautiful to look at, as their name suggests, they secrete a poison that can cause heart failure in just a few minutes. Arachnophobes look away, as I'm going to tell you about the Brazilian wandering spider. It is one of the most venomous spiders on the planet, and 8 different species of them wander the forest at night in search of food. So you may want to double check your sleeping bag before you get in, as their venom can lead to trouble breathing and paralysis. Finally, a very famous name in the rainforest, the green anaconda, or man-eater. These snakes can grow incredibly large and kill their prey by suffocating them within a tight, coiled hold.
On our list, we have the incredibly bizarre appearance of a massive humpback whale in the heart of the Amazon jungle. No, I'm not kidding. A humpback whale was legitimately found washed up on land 50 feet away from the nearest ocean. And how it got there? Honestly, no one really knows. In 2019, the 36-foot, 10-ton animal was discovered far from its natural habitat in the undergrowth of the jungle. It was located after scientists were alerted of a large gathering of scavenger birds spotted in the jungle. There are a couple theories as to how or why the whale ended up where it did, none of which really do it for me, but I'll share them with you so you don't feel left out. The first theory is that the 10-ton whale was thrown out of the water and into the woods by rough seas after floating floating too close to the shores of Arona Beach, which is strange because whales are not usually found along the north coast of Brazil during February when the specimen was found. Not only that, but you're really telling me rough tides threw a 10-ton whale 50 feet into the jungle? Yeah, I'm just not buying it. Another theory is that some kind of mysterious alien force dropped the poor guy there, which honestly might actually make more sense at this point. But as always, when I can't figure something out, I'd love to know what you guys think. Next on the list, we have the boiling river of the Amazon, the perfect spa date location for someone you really don't like. The river's name is Shanai Tempishka, and it is said to be the home of an ancient Amazonian water spirit. Located in the heart of the central Peruvian Amazon, the river flows at a temperature of up to 200 degrees Fahrenheit, 93 degrees Celsius, for just shy of 4 miles. The waters range from quite shallow all the way to 16 feet deep, and the widest point of the lake is 80 feet across. The river's heat comes from thermal vents, and while hot springs are not unheard of in this world, the magnitude of Shanai makes it a record-breaking find. Something else has also set this river apart from others found in the past. Generally, thermal rivers are heated by volcanic activity underneath the earth below the waterways, but that is not the case for this hot giant, which is heated solely by the earth's geothermal energy that escapes through cracks in the floor of the riverbeds, warming up the waters. Good for swimming? Absolutely not, but you could always make a cup of tea. Next on the list, we have the Goliath bird eater, and heads up, it's a spider, and yes, it does eat birds. The Goliath is a massive tarantula. Its body measures in at about 5 inches, and it has a leg span of up to 11, which makes this thing certified nightmare fuel. The animal is obviously a carnivore, consuming not only birds, but mice, lizards, and frogs as well. It hunts by pouncing on its prey and then piercing it with inch-long fangs, which act as hypodermic needles, pumping neurotoxins into the bodies of its victims. The spider then drags its dinner back to its burrow, where it liquefies the animal's insides before sucking it dry. So now that we know how it catches its own prey, let's discuss how it avoids becoming someone else's. The Goliath has pretty bad eyesight, but it does have highly sensitive leg hairs that can sense vibrations from all around. When the spider notices a predator is getting too close, it will rub its legs together, releasing the tiny harpoon-like hairs, which are tipped with stinging barbs, into the air, irritating predators' skin and eyes, strongly encouraging them to find a different meal. Also, they can lay between 50 and 150 eggs at a time, which is just awesome. Next on our list, we have the vampire wasp, a large-headed parasitic animal that grows to be just 0.2 shy of an inch, discovered in the Peruvian jungles of the Amazon. 2 things you should know about this animal. 1, the vampire wasp feeds by stinging its prey and then sucking out the blood and other internally bodily fluids of its victim. And 2, the females lay eggs by locating a suitable insect host, stabbing it with their ovipositor, which is basically a tube-like egg-laying organ, and then laying eggs under the host's skin. When the eggs hatch, the juvenile wasps remain under the skin of their host, feeding on its insides until they become fully grown. I love you guys, but I hated learning that. Next up, at our halfway point, we have an animal absolutely no less terrifying than the rest, going by the name of T-Rex leech. And it was discovered, drumroll please, inside someone's nose. Also known as the tyrant leech king, this animal can grow to be just under 2 inches. Of course, as a leech, it survives by sucking the blood from its prey. The way it does this is by using its 8.13mm teeth situated around its circular jaw to bite down on its prey, and then moving around in a sawing motion to open up the wound. Already, I apologize, but in the name of entertainment and at the expense of me sleeping tonight, I'm gonna keep going. Besides the T-Rex leech's abnormally large teeth and body, there is one other thing that makes it just a bit different than others in the leech family. Instead of attacking exposed surface skin, this guy likes to get a little more intimate, aiming for the orifices of its host bodies, such as, well, noses and mouths. Usually the noses and mouths of livestock, but judging by the nature in which it was discovered, I'd say they're really not that picky. Moving past our halfway point today, we have the giant centipede, which can grow up to 12 inches. Yay! This large and absolutely horrifying animal has a body that is composed of 21 to 23 distinct sections, with each section having its own pair of legs. Quick maths, that's 42 to 46 pokey little yellow legs. The animal generally feeds on insects, snails, and worms, and it does so by utilizing their quick speed to catch their prey and then biting down hard with its two front legs tipped with large spikes that work like pinchers. The spikes then administer a paralyzing venom to its prey, rendering it, well, screwed. I'm gonna ease your minds for a moment and let you know that these guys aren't really interested in attacking humans. Now that the moment's over, I will let you know what happens on the rare occasions these guys do decide to stray from their straight and narrow. The bite of a giant centipede can cause a person to experience headache, chest pain, heart tremors, nausea, and vomiting. Super cool!
And we're kicking off this video with stairs. This is something that a lot of you have probably heard of before. There have been many stories and images surfacing online of people, as well as park rangers, coming across stairs in the middle of the forest, leading to some pretty surreal, haunting kind of images. These stairs are often found deep in the woods and can be made of a variety of materials, including concrete and wood. The stairs appear to have been constructed by human hands and appear to be in rather good condition, even though they are often located in areas where there are no buildings or signs of human activity. A supposed paranormal stories surrounding these stairs suggest that they are haunted or cursed, and that those who climb them are doomed to a terrible fate. Some claim that the stairs are remnants of long abandoned structures, while others believe that they are portals to other dimensions or the work of supernatural entities. And I gotta say, I mean, just seeing stairs in the middle of a forest, that would be pretty eerie for me too. I'd be just a little bit freaked out. The search for the missing teens. Reddit user Genesis Pro Tech shared this story. There had been a group of teenagers who went on a camping trip but did not return at the scheduled time. Worried about their safety, Genesis Pro Tech and his good friend, along with a search and rescue professional who knew the area well, were called to assist with the search efforts. After hiking for most of the day and covering about 35 kilometers into the woods, the search party began to notice some strange things. They came across sticks that were carved into spears and stuck in the ground, odd carvings on the trees, and a child's stuffed animal hanging from a tree. These items were all freshly carved, indicating that someone had been in the area recently. The thing is, this wasn't on any of the regular trails in the area, and it was far from any roads. Despite their growing unease, the search party continued to hike through the woods, hoping to find the missing teenagers. As night fell, they set up camp, still on edge from the unsettling things they'd seen earlier, and after a restless night, they woke up at dawn and prepared to continue the search. While packing up the gear though, they found a piece of ripped clothing and some shoe prints nearby. They thought, hey, maybe they were close to finding the missing teens. But then they received a radio call that the teenagers had been found about 20 kilometers away to the east, and that they were calling the search party back. They were pretty relieved about the teens being found, but understandably shaken at the same time. What was all that stuff they'd come across in the middle of nowhere? Next up we have Stalked by a Cougar. A Redditor by the name of Smokey the Marshmallow shared what they described as the scariest incident they had experienced as a park ranger. In Washington state, the ranger had been hiking up an unpopular trail leading to an old shelter where he had a strange feeling he was being watched. Although he had seen fresh cougar scratches and droppings along the trail, which were common in the area, he wasn't worried at first. That night, he camped at the shelter, which had only 3 walls and a roof. He felt a little uneasy throughout the night and didn't sleep much. In an attempt to feel safer, he arranged his emergency foil tarp around his sleeping bag, hoping to hear something if it approached him as he slept. The next day, the ranger found fresh cougar droppings and scratches on the trail he had hiked on. He continued on the trail and found a mostly eaten deer in some dense brush just off the trail. This was an indication that this cougar was nearby, and the ranger began to feel pretty uneasy, as you could probably imagine, given he was at least 13 miles away from civilization. As a result, he decided to just shorten his 3-day trip and quickly made his way out of the area. Probably a smart idea. Badlands National Park, located in South Dakota, is considered to be one of the most haunted places in the United States. Many visitors and park rangers have reported paranormal activities in the park, including ghostly sightings and eerie sounds. The area is known for its rugged terrain, deep canyons, and eroded rock formations, which have become the perfect setting for various ghost stories. It is also home to a dark history of violence and tragedy, leading to many rumors of possible paranormal activity. The area was once a haven for outlaws and bandits as well, who would often take refuge in the rugged landscape. It's rumored that the spirits of these notorious criminals still haunt the park, with visitors reporting strange noises, apparitions, and just feelings of being watched. Visitors have also reported strange lights and unexplained sounds and eerie shadows within the park. The Deer Head. A ranger at Yellowstone National Park posted the following story on Reddit. They stated that they had been exploring the remote Lamar Valley, situated miles away from the nearest road and the park boundary. While wandering on the trail, the ranger came across a bizarre sight: a perfectly severed deer head in the middle of the path. There's no evidence of blood, and the head seemed to be untouched and intact. The person had previously come across the kills of bears and wolves, and even tracked the kills of cougars in South Dakota, but this was something else entirely. The head was of a doe and didn't have antlers, so kind of unlikely that it was a hunter committed this act, and it didn't make sense for someone to even leave the head in the middle of the trail. Just a perfectly severed, intact head. Yeah. Pretty weird. Next up, we have the booby trap. In April 2012, a U.S. Forest Service law enforcement officer named James Schaufler was on patrol in a popular recreation area located off Big Springs Trail in Provo Canyon, Utah. While on foot, he came across what looked to be a tripwire, and to his horror, he discovered a primitive booby trap that was set to activate when said tripwire was crossed. The vise was made of a large rock and had sharpened sticks on it, forming kind of like a spiked ball that of course could have hit an unsuspecting person and caused some serious harm. After dismantling the trap, he found another tripwire designed to send someone falling into a bed of sharpened wooden spikes, very Mortal Kombat style. Schaufler's quick thinking and sharp eyesight prevented a potentially very serious incident from happening, as the booby traps were located only half a mile from the recreation area's parking lot. It was fortunate that no one was injured, especially since there was a child's birthday party being held in the area at the time. Yikes. The traps were dismantled, and Schaufler's actions were instrumental, obviously, in keeping people safe while enjoying the area's natural beauty. Thank you, James. The next story comes from us to another Reddit user, Shiny Brian, who picked quite the spot to relieve himself. He had a job fighting forest fires in the Pacific Northwest and described his scariest encounter as such. My scariest wilderness encounter was about 2 a.m. while maintaining a fire line on a 300-acre fire caused by a lightning strike. I needed to take a number one, and the rule is you don't take a number one on the fire. So I walked over towards a stump outside the fire line. I was about 50 feet away from the stump when it walked away. It was a black bear. I feel like I would have just shrunk into myself if this ever happened to me. I mean, just seeing a stump you were looking at move, first of all, is scary, and then to see it's a bear, yeah, no thanks. Alright, Lake Crescent in Olympic National Park is steeped in legend and ghost stories. One of the most popular legends surrounding the lake is that it was created when part of Mount Storm King fell onto a battlefield, crushing the combatants and creating the bed of the lake, according to legend anyway. However, a more recent and factual story is that of the Lady of the Lake. In 1940, the body of a woman was found floating in the lake. Her body was eerily well preserved, likely due to the natural process of saponification, which gave her skin a kind of waxy texture. The woman was later identified Haley Latham Illingworth, a local tavern server who had disappeared in 1937. Her husband, Monty, was identified as the culprit after authorities found strangulation bruises on her body. Despite the mystery being solved, though, visitors to the area still report seeing the ghost of her lingering on the shores of Lake Crescent, making it one of Washington's most haunted trails, supposedly. Next up, we have the bear attack. Jordan Carberry, a Canadian park ranger in Bella Coola, British Columbia, had come across some bear cubs in a tree. Never a good sign. You do not want to come across grizzly bear cubs in the wild, as cute as they are, because where they are, the mother is close by, and she does not want to see you. And this was no exception. One of these cubs happened to fall out of the tree and caught the attention of the protective mother bear, who began charging towards him. The grizzly bear tackled him from behind, picked him up by his head. Bear then picked him up again by his thigh and dropped him down repeatedly. Using what he had learned from a defensive training class, though, the park ranger, Carberry, kicked the bear in the face as hard as he could and managed to create enough space to run back to his house. Since he didn't have cell service though, Carberry actually had to drive himself to the hospital with one arm over his belly, just telling himself repeatedly not to pass out. Despite his injuries, Carberry did recover, and during recovery was quoted as saying he felt fan-freaking-tastic. So amazing. The last story here, this is a personal story, at least one that happened to a buddy of mine. I call it the Waving Man. So my buddy used to be a camp counselor. So yeah, not a park ranger, but hey, close enough. Anyway, he took kids out on portaging trips. It used to be like days-long trips. We'd canoe, and then you'd, traverse through the forest with the canoe, and then you'd canoe again. That's what it's called. Anyway, so one day they're canoeing, they're getting to their next site, and they happen across this man on the side of the shore, and he's kind of asking my buddy, hey, where are you guys camping and all this stuff? And my buddy Max, he doesn't really tell him because obviously he's got kids with him. He doesn't want some guy coming around their campsite. But they make it to their campsite that night. They set up the fire, they set up their tents. The kids go to bed. Him and his fellow camp counselor are in their tent. And then they start to hear what sounds like footsteps kind of walking around their campsite. And they're thinking like, okay, maybe it's one of the kids who's up or something like that. Unzip their tent, nobody. Totally empty campsite. Now they're obviously a little bit freaked out, right? Zip up the tent again, they hear those footsteps once again. They're like, do you hear that? Yeah, like I hear there's something. And keep in mind, they got kids with them, so they have to, obviously protect the kids. My buddy Max pulls out an axe he had with them, set up a fire, and they just stay up all night, just waiting for whoever this is to come out, or, might have to use that axe. They were really freaked out. Anyway, night goes by fine, no one ends up showing up. Head back on their canoes the next morning, and as they're heading down the river, they see that same man they met the day before just on the side of the shore, just waving and smiling at them. So, I don't know. Anyway.
Moving right along, we've got the world's most powerful electric eel, bear with me, Electrophorus voltae. It's a small, relatively docile animal. Oh wait, no, it's not. It's actually a 2 meter, 6 foot 7 inch long monster that can weigh up to 20 kilograms, which is 44 pounds. And it has sharp teeth on both its upper and lower jaws that it uses to tear apart its prey of small fish and shellfish. Don't worry, I know I buried the lead, and I bet you're all dying to know just how electric this eel really is. Well, let me start off by saying the previously highest recorded voltage of an electric eel was 650 volts, which has caused fatal heart and respiratory failure in humans when shocked multiple times. This new guy's voltage is just a teeny bit higher, 210 volts higher to be exact. Simply put, this 860 volt electrical eel would cause a lot of damage. How much exactly? Well, we're not really sure yet, but I'll tell you this, I will not be the one to find out. If you guessed that next on the list we'd have another nightmarish creature capable of causing serious damage to those who come too close for comfort, give yourself a pat on the back because you're nailing it, as this next animal is exactly that. The Pyra, also known as the vampire fish, does not suck blood or insides of its prey, but it does have extremely large fangs that can grow to be up to 15 centimeters long. That's 5.9 inches. Almost half a foot of nightmare fuel. You might think there's some kind of saving grace here, but there's not. This animal is extremely fast and highly aggressive, considered to be one of the ultimate jungle predators. I guess we did have to even the playing field somehow though, as in recent years these feisty fish that measure in anywhere between 1.5 to 3 feet in length and weigh up to 20 pounds have become the catch of choice for fly fishers within the region. I hope you guys are doing alright, and I also hope you are not afraid of snakes, because if you are, this next one just might make your skin crawl. It's the green anaconda, aka the largest snake in the Amazon, reaching lengths of up to 30 feet, that's 9 meters, and diameters of up to 12 inches, 30.5 centimeters. And if you're still not impressed, these animals can weigh up to an astounding 550 pounds or 250 kilograms. These animals are members of the boa constrictor family, and although they have incredibly sharp teeth and powerful jaws, they are, thankfully, not venomous. But of course, they're incredibly strong, and they use their strength to crush their prey by curling up around it and restricting its airways, providing little chance for escape. The green anaconda is not at all a picky eater either, with an expansive diet of fish, reptiles, amphibians, tapirs, deers, dogs, capybaras, sheep, and whatever the heck else they can find, really. Luckily for us, attacks on humans are pretty rare, but not unheard of, and yeah, they can swim, like really well. So keep your eyes peeled for these masters of camouflage the next time you're taking a walk through the Amazon jungle. And finally, to finish us off today, we have the Amazonian bullet ant. Just a little guy with a lifespan of about 90 days, growing to be between just 0.07 to 1.2 inches long. Living in the humid lowlands of the Amazon rainforest, this demon creature has the most powerful sting in the world. Getting stung by this guy has been described as pure, intense, brilliant pain, like walking over flaming charcoal with 3-inch nails embedded in your heels. Oh my god, the Amazon needs to chill. Besides up to 24 hours of an intense amount of pain, symptoms of being stung by the insect include fever, nausea, trembling, and cardiac arrhythmia. So while you won't die, you will for sure feel like you're in hell until the symptoms wear off. If you guys want to hear something really wild, listen up. There are certain Amazonian tribes that use these ants in coming-of-age ceremonies, requiring young men to wear gloves filled with them for a total of 10 minutes in order to achieve status within their community. And in order to be considered a village warrior, they must complete this ceremony a total of 20 times.
Number 5. Amazon rings. The Amazon rings are famous massive circular ditches, sometimes up to 16 feet deep and just as wide. So how could these geoglyphs have appeared within the forest? The reality seems to be that these were created before the forest itself even existed. It's hard to imagine a time before the Amazon forest grew, but studies suggest that these rings were created long before the forest was. It's thought to be more remnants of life in the Amazon before the Europeans arrived, with an estimated 6 to 10 million people living in the area. It's unsure just what exactly these rings were used for, and some people have gone as far as to suggest that aliens left the markings in the ground behind, a sort of Amazon crop circle. It's unfortunate that the discovery of these rings was a direct result of the clear cutting and logging going on in the forest. Number 4. Lost cities. Even as recently as the 20th century, explorers have been venturing into the rainforest for supposed lost cities that have never been found. Some of those explorers even becoming lost, never to be seen again, like the tale of British explorer Percy Fawcett. As it turns out, scientists have discovered that these lost cities that so many went in search of likely did really exist, thanks to some high-tech helicopter remote sensing technology. It seems that there were massive cities that were abandoned only some 600 years ago, and it's believed that up to 2 million people lived in the rainforest at one point. The cities stretch for miles and include things like complex waterway systems and large conical pyramids. The true mystery is what happened to this civilization. How do entire cities disappear into the forest without a trace? As these cities were built with mud bricks and are almost completely destroyed, we may never know what really happened to them. Number 3. The Man of the Hole. One famous resident of the vast rainforest is someone you've probably never heard of before. He is known as the Man of the Hole, as no one knows his true name or who he really is. So why is he so famous? He's indigenous to the rainforest and is known to be the very last remaining member of his remote tribe. The rest of his people were killed by farmers and land grabbers who wanted to make use of the land that they'd been living on. As a result, he is the loneliest man in the world, no one knowing his language or how to communicate with him. And it seems as though he doesn't want anyone to anyways. He has attacked government officials who have tried to come close, living on his now protected territory, digging holes to hide in and capture animals, earning his name of the Man in the Hole. It's also thought that he may be making these holes to try and capture anyone who would dare get close to him. He has been caught on camera only a few times, showing us that he's still around. Number 2. El Tunche. If you ever, for some reason, find yourself walking through the rainforest and you hear a distant whistling sound, it would be wise of you not to seek it out, especially if you've been stomping on a few too many plants lately. That's because what you are hearing might be the call of El Tunche, a demon who wanders the forest, protecting the wildlife and condemning those who would harm it. If you haven't done any damage to the forest, then he'll probably just scare you off. But if you have, you might as well start running. By calling out, the demon is trying to entice you to whistle back and reveal your exact location to him. If you do so, El Tunche's call will grow louder and louder, following you wherever you go. Eventually, it invades your mind as you sleep, drawing you into madness. I think that's a good enough reason to start being a little bit kinder to our natural surroundings. Number 1. Ellob Zone. A widespread legend across South America is that of Ellob Zone. It is a werewolf-like creature that can be seen walking on all fours and also on its hind legs. Different from Western and Hollywood interpretations and depictions of werewolves, Ellob Zone is not created through a bite, but instead born. Any 7th son that is born in an unbroken line of boys will become the creature, usually transforming around their 13th birthday. The stories have caused people to abandon, give up, or even kill their own 7th son. Every full moon, the boy will transform into the wolf-like creature, hunting down prey with unmatched speed and endurance. While just a legend, with a place as vast as the rainforest, who knows if Ellob Zone isn't hiding in those darkest hidden corners.
Next up on our list today we have Clapham Wood. This forest is located within the serene landscape of West Sussex, and it is shrouded in an atmosphere that is thick with mystery. It has become infamous for its unsettling calm, which is interrupted by a sequence of bizarre disappearances and chilling encounters. Witnesses report eerie lights piercing the night sky, attributing them to UFOs that seem drawn to this particular place, as if tethered by an unseen force. The wood's uncanny reputation is further fueled by whispers of occult rituals performed under its canopy of ancient trees. It is rumored that secret societies have chosen this secluded forest as their unhallowed ground, conducting rites that disturb the very essence of nature. The palpable sense of unease in Clapham Wood is only heightened by the unexplained deaths that have occurred in its depths. Among the most compelling tales is that of a series of UFO sightings in the 1960s and 1970s, where witnesses described encountering glowing orbs and strange metallic crafts that seemed to defy the laws of physics. These events have led some to speculate about vortexes or portals within the wood, connecting our world to realms beyond our understanding. Next up on our list today we have Brocéliande Forest, and this legendary forest is located in Brittany, France, and it is steeped in Arthurian legend and is said to be the home of the mythical wizard Merlin. This forest isn't steeped in legends of creepy ghosts coming back to haunt with a vengeance, but instead is a place full of legends that coincide with important moments in history. This forest is the one said to be of the King Arthur legend, as well as the home to the tomb of Merlin, which I mentioned before. This is already very interesting, but what's creepier is the fact that the Valley of No Return is located here, and this is said to be the site where the sorceress Morgan Le Fay, King Arthur's half-sister, imprisoned young unfaithful men. If this doesn't seem like enough already, in more recent history, this site was the location of a terrible fire in 1990 that completely ripped through the forest. All in all, this forest maybe isn't the most terrifying in terms of ghouls and goblins and ghostly lions, but it is definitely full of some pretty creepy history. Moving on down our list, we have Dow Hill. Dow Hill harbors a chilling narrative that transcends the ordinary. These woods are rumored to be the restless haunt of souls who met their untimely demise within this wilderness, their spirits anchored to the place of their final anguish. Adjacent to this eerie forest stands the Victoria Boys High School, an institution as steeped in lore as it is in academia. As night comes, the deserted hallways of the school are said to resonate with inexplicable footsteps, suggesting the presence of unseen visitors from beyond the veil. This phenomenon has captured the imagination and the trepidation of many, lending a spectral aura to the school's historic walls. animals. Local lore is rife with tales of encounters with these spectral entities, some claiming to feel an overwhelming sense of foreboding or to hear anguish whispers. These stories are not just figments of the imagination, but are ingrained in the cultural fabric of the area, passed down through generations, imbuing Dow Hill with a profound sense of mystery and a mark of the paranormal. Moving on down today, we have Freetown Fall River State Forest, which is nestled in the heart of Massachusetts. This verdant expanse forms a critical piece of the notorious Bridgewater Triangle, a hotspot that seems to magnetically attract the bizarre and the unexplained. Similar to the Bermuda Triangle, I really don't know what it is with all these triangles and their strange happenings. Just stay out of the triangles, alright? Within its shadowy bounds, the forest brims with tales that blur the line between reality and the supernatural. Imagine wandering through these woods only to encounter a UFO silently gliding overhead, or to feel the watchful eyes of unseen entities as whispers of ancient poltergeists dance through the trees. Here, legends of cryptid creatures such as colossal serpents and majestic thunderbirds are not just stories, they are chapters in the forest's mysterious lore. And then there's the whispered narratives of cult gatherings and eerie confrontations that might just make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. At the end of the day, it is very clear that Freetown Fall River State Forest isn't just a collection of trees and trails, but instead a hotspot for the creepy and the unexplained. Next up today, we have Lichen Way, which is located in Turkey. It's a little bit less of a forest in the traditional way and more of a long-distance footpath. This place is known for its beautiful scenery, but behind the facade is something slightly more sinister. Through about 500 kilometers of rugged coastline, this footpath takes the journeyer through some ancient ruins and burial grounds, and this is where the haunting really gets started. Hikers in the area have reported seeing apparitions around these areas, as well as just feeling a general sense of dread. One of the main places that people have reported these strange feelings is by Kayakoi, which is a ghost village that was left abandoned when their Greek inhabitants left Turkey. There's always something very unsettling about a place that is just left completely abandoned. But when coupled with ghostly sightings, it's safe to say that while absolutely beautiful, this place is best visited with caution. And finally, today to end off our list, we have Griffith Park, tucked away in the bustling city of Los Angeles, California. This place is one of North America's vast urban parks, and it harbors a myriad of secrets within its expansive bounds. Chief among them is the chilling tale of Don Antonio Felice. In the 19th century, it is said that Felice, a prominent landowner, was wronged as death approached and uttered a curse upon his vast estate. This malevolent legacy seems to have seeped into the very soil of Griffith Park, manifesting through eerie encounters and, of course, ghost sightings. Visitors whisper of glimpses of Don Antonio's forlorn spirit wandering the park, his ethereal presence a stark reminder of the park's somber past. Alongside him, other phantoms and inexplicable occurrences contribute to the park's haunted reputation, from spectral figures glimpsed in the twilight to inexplicable sounds disturbing the night's peace. It's safe to say that Griffith Park is full of haunting lore.
Number 5. Burned mannequins. Another park ranger on Reddit shared his experience while working at a national wildlife refuge that had formerly been home to a US Army lab site. The site had been completely transformed to become a wildlife refuge, with years of thorough cleanup needing to be done on things like barbed wire fences and barricades before it could be opened. One night, when the ranger was walking deep into the forest, he saw figures in the distance. This caught him off guard, as you're not permitted to leave the trails at all. So who was out there? The ranger announced himself and moved closer, and what he discovered was 6 mannequins in military uniforms, which appeared to have been badly burnt. 6 burned figures standing around in the woods in the dark of night would have been scary for anyone to stumble upon, though apparently he chalked it up to having been part of a fabric test. Still pretty scary to discover though, and to think it was somehow missed in the decade-long cleanup of the park. Number 4. Only resident. A park ranger for a small island was the only year-round resident of the area. The island had no bridges or ferries and could only be accessed by private boats. The island would be crowded in the summer, but in the off-season, the island was only inhabited by the ranger. Walking at night, he was adventuring around the island, seeing if he could hike the entire distance. He saw a flash of white in the distance, thinking it was a herd of the brown and white deer which were local to the area. He pressed forward, before hearing something move again. Suddenly, out of the woods came a 6-foot-tall man, wearing a bright white shirt. He sprinted straight up to the ranger with a strange grin on his face, before shouting and laughing loudly, quickly sprinting back into the woods again. The ranger was rightfully terrified, because as far as he knew, he was the only person on the small island. For the next few days, he tried to find any evidence of another person living on the island, but never found any campsite, boats, or other signs of life. Number 3. Mysterious Stranger. A ranger was leading a hiking trip to the top of a mountain in North Carolina, a difficult hike far from any civilization. When they reached the peak, they set up a camp on a beautiful clear night. Since it was so nice out, after the group had gone to bed in their tents, the ranger chose to sleep outside in a hammock, reading a book to pass the time. Due to the brightness of the camp and the moon, it was easy for them to see around the camp and the trail that they had taken to get there. They were soon caught off guard by the sight of something moving, expecting it to be a bear. But as they got closer, they realized it was the shape of a person. They found it odd to see someone at the top of the difficult and long trail at night with no light or any sign of gear. They watched the person move closer towards the camp before the figure stopped, staring out at the camp. The figure stood there for a while before moving to sit under a tree, still staring intently. The ranger watched the man sit there for what was apparently a few hours, before the figure got up and made his way back down to the trail. This left the poor ranger with a paranoid feeling of being followed for the remainder of the trip. Number 2. Deer head. It's not uncommon to find animals or animal remains in the woods, circle of life and all that. But a Yellowstone ranger described their very bizarre experience which occurred near a valley deep into the park. While walking a trail, they found in the middle of the path the head of a deer. What was strange was that the head was perfectly clean, no sign of blood, and no sign of an animal having tried to eat it. The ranger didn't find any other signs of other animals that may have been around the area and done this. They also had no explanation for why a human may have done this, as it was a doe with no antlers that a hunter may want to collect. The experience left the ranger shaking and desperately trying to come up with an explanation for the bizarre and shocking discovery, but none could be found. Number 1. Skin changer. One wildland firefighter shares a story that his supervisor had told him many times. Apparently, in Idaho, the crew had been working on a large fire incident and would have to be there through the night in order to deal with it. The supervisor went out on an ATV to get a look at the nearby area, when a large cat, seemingly a bobcat, ran out into the road. The animal stood there and stared at him for a while, before letting out a loud scream and running up a tree nearby the road. While startling, it didn't appear to be any reason for concern. Further down the road, he discovered an abandoned cabin. This was also strange as the land was federal property and there should be no buildings. The house appeared derelict and was boarded up, everything inside appearing incredibly out of order. Unsettled, the supervisor got back on his ATV to head back, but at the exact same place where he had seen the bobcat, a woman stood in the road with a nightgown and bare feet. He asked if she needed help, to which she responded with a scream, before running up the same tree the bobcat had, faster than any human would be able to. After returning, he asked locals about the cabin in the area, recounting his experience, to which they told him that he had likely had an encounter with a skin changer.
Waco, Texas is home to Cameron Park, said to be one of the creepiest forests in the entire state. There's all kinds of paranormal weirdness here, a haunted set of stairs, a witch's castle. It's a real Grimm's fairy tale type of forest, but Texas style. Jacob's Ladder is this huge, steep set of stairs in the middle of the forest. It's quite the climb, and it offers some pretty amazing views, but you may want to avoid climbing Jacob's Ladder at night, if you're the superstitious type. Or just a safety nut. I mean, I wouldn't want to go into the forest and climb a set of stairs without at least having a flashlight on me, but the stairs are also said to be haunted by a malevolent spirit who tugs at people's clothes, sometimes hard enough to have them tumbling down the stairs to their deaths. There's also a set of crumbling ruins known as the Witch's Castle. The story goes that an old hag lived in the forest, practicing dark magic and concocting poisonous potions that she'd feed to her young kidnapped victims. When the locals discovered the old witch was responsible for their young ones going missing, they formed a mob and burnt her home to the ground. Her vengeful spirit is said to stalk the ruins to this day, chasing away intruders, and some say you can still hear the screams of her victims echoing from the forest late at night.
Hidden within Bear Creek Forest in North Carolina is a small dead patch of land known as the Devil's Tramping Grounds. Here, nothing grows, nor can it. According to locals, any vegetation planted there will wither and die within days. Furthermore, animals absolutely refuse to enter the circle, which causes compasses to go wacko. Dogs will tuck their tails between their legs and cry when in close range of the circle, and dig their heels into the dirt if their owners try to pull them in, which is mean, by the way. Leave them alone. As for wildlife, they avoid the area completely, like the plague. While there are some people who have attempted to spend the night inside of the Devil's Tramping Grounds, it is said that no one has lasted for more than a couple hours, because shortly after settling in for the night, a person inside of the Devil's Circle begins to experience headaches, muscle aches, and chest pains. It is said that the devil comes out at night to stomp the grounds and scorch the earth, and I guess he enjoys his private time. While many of us have seen depictions of the devil, locals claim that whoever is unlucky enough to gaze upon the true face of this demon will surely go completely insane.
Daring Woods in Kent, England has a pretty uninviting nickname, the Screaming Woods. They're said to be possibly the most haunted woods in all of Britain. The woods got their nickname because of the ghostly screams that people claim to hear emanating from the forest at night. The sounds are so unsettling that they've scared some visitors out of venturing into the woods at all. One of the most famous legends is about a group of villagers who vanished in the woods back in the 18th century. According to the story, the villagers went into the forest one night and were never seen again. Some say their spirits are still lost to this day, eternally wandering the woods in a state of fear and confusion, calling out into the night in desperation. Another creepy tale involves a highwayman who used to rob travelers passing through the woods. He was eventually caught by locals who pinned him to a tree before lobbing off his head. The legend goes that his ghost still haunts the forest, carrying his own head. People have also reported seeing ghostly figures and strange lights flickering between the trees, and on top of all that, the woods are often full of mist, which not only adds some spooky ambiance, it also makes it a lot easier to get lost.
Epping Forest, located in London, England, has somewhat of a dark history. It is believed that a highwayman and Essex gang member, Dick Turpin, once used the wooded area as a base for criminal activities including the killing of a forest patrolman in the 1730s. It is said that both Turpin and the patrolman now roam the forest. The patrolman mournfully, and Turpin, who was put to death for his crimes, vengefully. Those who enter the forest are immediately hit with an overwhelming sense of dread, which has been known to draw people to a pond located deep within the wooded area. There, many explorers take their final breath before submerging themselves into the murky waters, never to be seen again. And of course, there is a story behind the pull of the pond as well, and it goes like this. According to legend, it all started when a pair of young lovers died there in a involuntary killing 300 years ago. Since then, they have driven others to meet the same fate time and time again. If I were you, I'd avoid this one.
The Pine Barrens in New Jersey are said to be the home of one of the most famous cryptids in the United States, the Jersey Devil. And on top of that, a whole swath of other ghosts. But the legend goes that in 1735, a woman named Deborah Leeds was horrified to learn that she was going to give birth. That's because she'd already done it 12 other times. She was not looking forward to doing it again. She came to hate the thing growing inside her, and while finally in labor, screamed out to the heavens, "Let it be the devil," and out of her, a demonic entity came, a hideous creature with the head of a goat and a set of leathery wings, which it unfurled before flying out the window and into the depths of the swamp, only coming out on the occasional night, swooping down from the sky to feed on livestock. Now, similar to the chupacabra, residents have reported spotting a creature matching this description. Farmers have woken up to their chicken coops being raided, and even police have claimed to see a strange winged creature flying through the night sky. So is this just a myth and a legend, or is there some kind of weird cryptid stalking the forest?
Doe Hill Forest in India contains the ghost of a headless man, a road nicknamed Death Road, and an ominous learning institute that is both haunted and cursed. In fact, it's said to be one of the most haunted institutions in all of India. Let's start with the ghost though. Many people who visit the forest have reported seeing sightings of orbs, hearing disembodied giggles and phantom footsteps, and seeing the body of a headless young man who, when spotted, runs into the trees at top speed and then completely disappears. And then there's Death Road, which is the road that leads from the forest to the learning institution. It's called that because it kind of acts like a road to death, with many of those deaths occurring inside of the institution, and many of the occurrences being unnatural and completely inexplicable. While the institution is still running, I don't know if it should be, it's pretty much abandoned in the summertime. Regardless, the sounds of footsteps can still be heard echoing throughout the building.
Freetown Fall River State Forest in Massachusetts is part of an area known as the Bridgewater Triangle, which is famous for all sorts of supposed paranormal activity. One of the most well-known legends is about the Pukwudgies. So these are small, troll-like creatures from Native American folklore. They're said to be able to appear and disappear at will, cause trouble, and lure people deep into the forest, never to be seen again. There's also the Hokomoke Swamp Monster, a Bigfoot-like creature that's been spotted by a number of witnesses over the years. It's generally described as a large, hairy, ape-like beast. People have also reported hearing strange noises and seeing giant footprints in the forest. The forest also has a dark history with real-life crimes. In the 70s and 80s, a series of brutal killings took place in the area, some of which have never been solved, and some say they're linked to the ghostly apparitions and strange lights coming from the forest. The lights have also been attributed to UFOs. So there's a lot going on in the Bridgewater Triangle. It covers pretty much all your major paranormal food groups, ghosts, cryptids, and UFOs.
If you or a loved one have been to any of these forests, please let us know in the comments.
And we'll catch you in the next one.
Cheers, friends.
Want to see more videos like this one? Check out this video next. It's about the top 100 objects that are not from this planet. Yep, we ranked all of the objects on the planet that scientists have confirmed are not from this planet. Click the video now to find out more.